Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for coming in. My name is Jesse Agler. I am the radio announcer for the Padres, and it is very, very cool to be here with you guys. I don't think I've done a school event for the Pods since before COVID. And I'll get you in on a little secret. Back in like 2018, 2019, I'd go to a school, nobody was wearing Padre gear. I look around today, there's a lot of Padre gear. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for your support, and thank you guys for being here. This is a really cool program today, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. But I wanna get to know all of you a little bit before we kick it off here. If you have heard of Jackie Robinson, raise your hand for me. Okay, good. Most everybody. If you've heard of San Diego High's Johnny Ritchey, before you walked in and saw this picture of him, raise your hand for me. Okay, most, but not all. That's good. Today you're gonna learn something really cool about somebody who walked these same halls, 80 years ago, which is pretty cool. How many of you heard of Trent Grisham? Everybody, please. Goodness, he's right there, gosh. Starting center fielder for the Padres this year. That's pretty cool. We're gonna have some fun today. We got a program that I think is gonna help you guys out, hopefully entertain you a little bit as well. And thank you again for being here. The program, as you can see, is about breaking barriers. And what that means, of course, is different to all of us, right? The barriers that you experience might be different, certainly, than the barriers I experience or what somebody next to you might experience. But hopefully there is some information we can take that can help us push through barriers or go around barriers or go over barriers that we encounter in our lives. Maybe it's a financial thing, maybe it's a family thing, maybe it is a racial thing, as was the case for Jackie Robinson and Johnny Ritchey and so many others over the years. So we're gonna have some very, very cool people up here to talk about all of that and to kind of try and help us all out as much as we possibly can. Major League Baseball has done a really good job in the last few years of celebrating Jackie Robinson. In fact, tomorrow at the ballpark and at every ballpark, every player will wear number 42 in honor of Jackie Robinson. This happens now every single year on April 15th. Every game, every player, every team wears number 42 to honor Jackie. And here in San Diego, the legacy of Johnny Ritchey, who went to high school here, who went to San Diego State, who fought for his country in World War II, and who was the first black player in a very long time in the Pacific Coast League in 1948, playing for his hometown team here in San Diego. And on Monday, the Padres are gonna honor Johnny Ritchey by wearing those uniforms, red, white, and blue, that he wore in 1948. Is anybody coming to that game? You're all coming to that game if you want, because you've all got tickets, and I hope you enjoy it. So, come on out and have fun. All right, let's kick off this program. First, I want to bring up the CEO of the Padres, Eric Grubner. He's going to give you a little bit of a hello, and we'll get this thing rolling. Thank you guys again.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I want to thank you students at San Diego High for making the time to be with us today, but I guess this is probably better than the alternative, right? Sitting in class right now. So we hope you enjoy it, but most importantly, we hope today that you learned something that you didn't know before about this high school and the proud legacy of Johnny Ritchey and what he did with his courage and his bravery in breaking the color barrier on the West Coast in professional baseball. I want to in particular thank our panelists today, some who have traveled to San Diego specifically for this event today. Billy Bean, Captain Amy. Trent Grisham was a little busy last night, hitting a 2-run bomb to tie it up. And he's going to be back at it again tonight, but he made the time this morning to be here with all of you and tell you a little bit about his story. So thank you, panelists, for being here. We really appreciate it. Jesse, thank you for moderating. And I want to introduce a gentleman who's going to come up here and join me in a moment. He's going to tell you more about the Ritchey family and the story of Johnny Ritchey. And I just want to acknowledge both him and somebody else who's not going to come up. And I want him to raise his hand over there, Bill Johnston, who's our Vice President of Community Affairs. And I'm going to ask Tom Seidler, our Senior Vice President of Community and Military Affairs, to come up and join me here. Tom and Bill have put a tremendous amount of time and effort into building the legacy and the program around Johnny, and in particular the scholarship program and the Breaking Barriers Scholarship Program. They personally reviewed each and every submission for the scholarship, and I know this is a great source of pride for Tom and his family. His grandfather, Walter O'Malley, owned the Brooklyn Dodgers when they signed Jackie Robinson and had the courage to put him on the field. And so it's a full circle moment, I know, for Tom and his family. So without further ado, Tom Seidler.
So I assume everybody here has heard of Jackie Robinson, right? Well, what he did on April 15th, 1947, we always celebrate. In fact, like Jesse said, tomorrow the Padres and every team in baseball, every player, Trent included, wears number 42 to honor Jackie. But a year later, 1948, baseball at that time in the 40s was only as far west as St. Louis. So the highest level of professional baseball on the West Coast was the AAA Pacific Coast League. And when Johnny Ritchey, on March 30th, 1948, played for his hometown San Diego Padres, he was the only black player in the Pacific Coast League. I had never heard of Johnny until maybe 8 years ago. And I thought, wow, this is a tremendous opportunity for us to tell his story, keep his legacy alive, and inspire people who have to break through barriers in life to get where they want to go. So we're happy to do that. We're excited to have several members of the Johnny Ritchey family here today. If you guys want to stand up, please. John and Jonna, and Carly and John. They've been terrific to work with, and as we have brought to life Johnny's legacy, it's been great working with you. Thanks for being here today, and we look forward to celebrating Johnny more on Monday. I'm going to turn it back over to Jesse and Joyce. By the way, who would rather be in school right now studying whatever you'd be studying instead of this program? Anybody? Okay, I'm glad we could give you a little diversion today. Enjoy the forum and enjoy the ball game on Monday when you see you out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Eric. School is important, though. I am obligated to remind you of that. But we're glad to have you out here, certainly. And before we fully get going and call up the panel, I do want to bring up one more person from SDG&E who's sponsoring the panel today here with the Padres, hosting the panel with the Padres, Kazim Omidiji. Kazim?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How are you all doing? Good. Well, again, my name is Kazim Omidiji, Director of Community Relations at San Diego Gas and Electric, also known as SDG&E, and I'm honored here to be here today with you to honor the life of Johnny Ritchey. Today we'll hear some amazing testimonies and discussions about remarkable individuals in our community breaking barriers and excelling in their profession. At SDG&E, we're grounded in our values to do the right thing, champion people, and shape the future. And that's why we're proud to partner with the San Diego Padres each year to champion initiatives that are going to embrace diversity and break down barriers. Now, I first want to applaud all of you here today because that signals that you're taking the right steps in helping to shape your future. You are the future. You will be challenging the status quo. You will continue to overcome and break down these systematic barriers, and you are the hope for a better community, not just here in San Diego, not just here in the United States, but definitely across the world. Now, I lived by a motto that a great mentor of mine shared, and it's about these specific years in high school. He said, Kazim, if you can sacrifice these 4 years of your life, and sacrifice meaning go to school. School's important. Do your homework. Put in the time and dedicate the hours. Now, that does not mean don't enjoy your life. You can still play video games. You can still go to the movies and go bowling. But dedicate this time of your life to learn the foundations that they're teaching you here in school because it will help set up the rest of your life. Now at SDG&E, we are trying to break down the barriers of racial and gender inequality in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics field. For us, that starts with the very top. Our CEO, Caroline Nguyen, is an engineer and who is an example of breaking down barriers not only in gender, but race and in profession. Also, I'm an engineer, and going to a college where I was one of 2 graduating black seniors in the entire college, I know the importance of breaking barriers and trying to develop that pipeline. So we at SDG&E, we're proud to sponsor Breaking Barriers event and hope the discussions here today will inspire you to break through and reach your fullest potential in life. I'll end by a famous quote by Jackie Robinson, and he said, "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." I certainly look forward to seeing you all make an impact in the lives of those around you and hearing about the wonderful things you will accomplish. I would like to thank San Diego High School for hosting us here today, the Major League Baseball and San Diego Padres for making this effort possible. And thank you again, of course. Go Padres.
Thank you, Kazim. That was great. I think one more thing we want to do before we bring up the panel, and I might have skipped over it, I apologize. We do have a video about Jackie Robinson, just to, again, paint a little bit more of a picture of what's going on and what we'll be celebrating tomorrow around baseball.
After a Hall of Fame career, Jackie and his wife Rachel continued their drive for leadership and change, which led to the establishment of the Jackie Robinson Foundation, which celebrates its golden anniversary this year. Since 1973, through sponsorship of various scholarship programs, the foundation has opened doors of opportunity in the community the same way Jackie Robinson opened doors to the big leagues, inspiring a new generation with powerful words that embody the spirit of his legacy. Courage,
Discipline. Strength.
integrity,
Justice.
education, excellence. I am Jackie Robinson.
I am Jackie Robinson. I am Jackie Robinson.
I am Jackie Robinson. MLB and its clubs have sponsored more than $20 million in Jackie Robinson Foundation scholarships, investing in the dreams of future leaders.
Very nice, thank you guys, and hope maybe you learned a little something from that. If not, or even if you did, you're gonna learn something from our panel today. So without further ado, we're gonna introduce them, get them up here, we'll have a little Q&A. I know we have some questions that were submitted from you guys as well that we'll get to. I am lucky enough in that I think I have one of the coolest jobs in the world. People are always coming up to me, hey, it's unbelievable you get to go to the game. They pay you to go to the games. You get to talk about the games. That's your job. You get to travel all over the country doing the game. And I think, yeah, you're right. It is one of the coolest jobs in the world. But the three people who are coming up here, like, way cooler, all of them. A current major leaguer, a former major leaguer, and a commander of an aircraft carrier, like a literal aircraft carrier. First and foremost, from your San Diego Padres, mentioned the big home run last night, starting center fielder, reigning Gold Glove Award winner of the National League, Trent Grisham is with us. Trent, come on up. They love you, Trent. From Major League Baseball, a former player himself and now doing tremendous work for the league office, traveled all the way across the country to be with us here today. Billy Beane is here. They love you too, Billy. And last, certainly not least, the commanding officer of the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is, of course, an aircraft carrier here in San Diego. Captain Amy Bauernschmidt is here. Captain Amy, the first woman in the history of the United States Navy to command an aircraft carrier. Like I said, I thought my job was cool. Thank you guys for being here, first of all. And if you could maybe just start, we'll go down the line, start with Trent to Amy and Billy, and just tell us a little bit about your story, maybe your high school experience, and some of the things that were between then and now for you.
I'm Trent Grisham. I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. Went to high school there. Played all three sports my freshman year, and then decided to go with baseball from my sophomore to my senior year. Got drafted in 2015 by the Brewers, and made my way up from there. Now I'm with the Padres, and yeah, that's really about it.
And I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is why I like that he started out with the Brewers. I actually went to an all-girls high school in Milwaukee, and I think that had, kind of an impact on, I didn't want to realize it at the time, but it certainly had an impact on kind of how I grew up and how I thought about things. Attended the United States Naval Academy primarily because I wanted to be an ocean engineer. Ironically enough, what got me to the Naval Academy, I haven't done a lot of ocean engineering. since joining. Graduating from the Naval Academy, pilot for 20 years. After I was a pilot for 20 years of helicopters. Spent most of my career here in San Diego. Went to nuclear power training, and then for about the last 10 years, I've been driving ships. And right now, I'm the commanding officer of the USS Abraham Lincoln for about another month before I will transfer and probably head overseas.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Billy Bean. Currently, I'm Senior Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Major League Baseball in New York City. I grew up just up the freeway, and I was born in Santa Ana, California. My dad was a Marine Corps veteran who was at Camp Pendleton for many years, and I am a former Major League player, played 6 years in the big leagues. I played center field a few days for the Padres, not as much as Trent, but one of the greatest parts of my life for sure. My story is a little unique. While I was raised in a family Marine Corps, military home. I'm the oldest of 5 boys, and my dad is from Racine, Wisconsin. But he moved out here to be in the military, and the irony of my playing experiences, up until about 3 or 4 months ago, I was only one of 2 Major League Baseball players in the history, 154-year history of the sport, that played in the majors that ever came out as gay. And while I was playing for the San Diego Padres, my partner died of HIV-related causes before every one of you were born. It was before the 1995 baseball season. And I never thought that there would be an accepting place for someone like me in my sport. My dad, I have 4 brothers. I'm the oldest of 5. I was in the big leagues at 21 years old. And I systematically eliminated myself because I felt like the other person in every clubhouse, every room that I was in. And it's one of the great regrets of my life, and it's a privilege to be here on this day in conversations that were created by someone like Johnny Ritchey and Jackie Robinson, because conversations about acceptance and inclusion encompass all of our identities. And I grew up in a time where we didn't have the chance to talk about LGBTQ issues, and baseball brought me back 10 years ago to initiate those conversations in front of players like Trent, because players like Trent and when I was playing, we never had conversations about the lived experience of others, and what is the responsibility of baseball to lift up those experiences and make everyone feel welcome when they come to one of our ball games, and that they believe that they could play at the big leagues or work or run a ball club. And super excited to be here today to talk about it.
As we said, right, barriers can come in all different shapes, sizes, colors. It can be so different for all of us. Staying positive is an important part of moving forward, but one of those things that is much, much, much easier said than done. Like we said, whether it's a financial thing, whether it's a gender thing, or anything else. Again, down the line, and Trent, maybe we'll start with you. When you, as a younger guy, maybe getting started in pro ball or even in high school, when you started running into difficulties, things that were challenging, where did that positivity come from? How were you able to continue to push forward and do what you needed to do to get to this point that so few get to?
I've always been a big proponent of you are who you're around. So I've done my best to try to surround myself, people in my life, family, friends. They encourage me. They encourage me when times get tough, and I really lean on them in those times. So I would have to say that was the biggest.
Maybe was it a goal for you to get to this point and to be a commanding officer of an aircraft carrier, knowing that no woman had ever done that before? Is that something you set out to do, or is that something that happened because of the success that you were able to have?
I absolutely did not set out to do it. When I graduated the academy, it was the year I graduated was the first year women, most of the restrictions on the United States Navy were lifted for women going into combat. So the helicopter that I ended up flying a year prior, I would not have been able to fly. And so most of my career, there was a point in time, I had been in about 7 or 8 years where I thought I was going to get out. That didn't happen. Essentially, I had a peer tell me that I was nuts for thinking about getting out and you should stay in because this is where you're supposed to be. And so I kind of took each step as it came. I always gave it my best. I always, tried to work as up to my potential. And then I continued to have fun, so I stayed around as long as I was having fun. I'm still having fun. And so I've had wonderful opportunities across my entire career in the military. And so I kind of reset goals as I kind of achieved one, and then looked further out to see what was next.
One step at a time. Billy, you shared so much of your story with us. Is there something you think you wish you knew then, or something you could go back and tell yourself then that you know now?
Very conservative with 5 sons in a household, and my dad was in the military, became a law enforcement officer after. I never felt like I would ever belong even in my own home, and I wanted to be like my dad wanted us to be, and all my heroes were baseball players in the clubhouses that I was playing in, and so I thought that I was the outlier, that I was the other person that didn't belong in the room. So if I could go back, it's so interesting in how important representation is. When you don't see someone like yourself, whether it's a person of the same color, that speaks the same language, the same country, same economic privilege or lack thereof, it's easy to assume that I wasn't meant for this place. And if you ask Trent how hard it is to get into a big league clubhouse and how amazing and how momentary that can be, the privilege of being healthy, getting an opportunity, those are the things that I didn't understand when I was in my 20s when I walked away from baseball. I just thought I was only defined by the one thing that I didn't have in common with my teammates. And that was a scar that my family, honestly, to this day, it's never really recovered from, because we love baseball so much. All my brothers are big Padre fans. And so that's been always my motivating drive, is to make everyone believe that their uniqueness, you're one of one. And there's no reason why you don't belong in that room. But if you don't believe it first, other people around you won't believe it either. So you gotta be strong in your own convictions.
Just to put a point, by the way, on what Billy is saying about how hard it is to get to the major leagues, even under the best of circumstances. When you guys are at the game on Monday night, there's gonna be about 40,000 people in the building, right? That's the general capacity of Petco Park. The total number of major leaguers, living and dead, in 150 or so years, is about 25,000. So a little more than half the ballpark. That's every person who's ever played in the major leagues, for every team, going back to the 1870s, 1880s.
And that's just one day.
And that's one day, right? A bunch of those guys, they got up, they had an at-bat, they struck out, they walked away, and that was it. We never saw them again. It's essentially half the capacity of most stadiums in Major League Baseball.
I think a great example is Johnny's amazing career, not getting an opportunity. That is a story that many baseball players can tell, and I'm reading up about your family member. I played in Magallanes, in Venezuela, for the Navegantes de Magallanes in '87. And, the path that baseball players go on is so interesting, but he was not given the opportunity for one reason that he had no control over. And that's why it's so important that we tell a story.
Wonderfully said. Captain Amy, if I may, obviously as a commanding officer and somebody who's in charge of a great number of people who I'm sure have a great number of differences, when you get a group together, and certainly you look around a baseball clubhouse, different guys, different backgrounds, all kinds of differences. What's the key in terms of leadership and being a member of a group like that, being able to work together with people who you maybe have absolutely nothing in common with outside of the reason that you're there?
We have a common mission and a common goal. So we get underway a lot. There are times where we're gone for several months on end. And an interesting thing happens when you spend a lot of time with folks, is you're forced to have conversations, and you're forced to work together for this common mission and common goal that we have, which is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And so we talk about, some of the most heated conversations can be whether or not Texas barbecue sauce is better or worse than North Carolina barbecue sauce. And so for us, it's not just about the obvious differences, whether that's gender or race or religion, orientation. It's also about north, south, east, west. We represent all 50 states and all of the U.S. territories. So we learn a lot about members of our community that are from every diverse community. And we all support the same mission. And so I think we all get behind the same goal in the end, and we all need each other. I talk to my sailors all the time, and I say that, what you do matters and that their hard work makes a difference. And we talk about manning a lot in the military because, I welcome everyone, we're having a hard time keeping people just like everyone else is. And we talk about that because each individual person there does matter. And what they do is important to the overall mission of the organization. And so, I say, much like a baseball team or even a great club in high school or your high school graduating class, those ones that get along really well, you never forget, and that's how we are in the military as well. And so it's being a part of this really great team that's the Navy.
Now, I know most of you and most of us, right, we're never going to be Major League Baseball players. We're never going to be commanding officers of aircraft carriers. But these things apply, whether you get a job as an engineer, a computer scientist, a coder, anything else, you're going to be part of a group at some point that is going to be unfamiliar to you. And hopefully some of these lessons are kept in mind. Trent, I saw you nodding your head about the barbecue sauce. As a Texas guy, I can guess your opinion. But beyond that, I know in a baseball clubhouse, that probably all sounded very familiar to you, huh?
Yeah, I don't think our goal is as important as Captain Amy's. We're just trying to win a game every night. But doing that, we have to all come together. We all have to be on the same page. We all have to work together. And like Captain Amy said, everybody plays a part. All 9 guys, even more than that, all the guys coming off the bench throughout a game, everybody plays a part in that. And coming together as a team it's really special when you're a part of it.
Very, very nice. All right, I know we got some questions that came in. I believe they were pre-submitted, and there is a microphone up front for you guys. So if you want to line up, we'll get to some of these. I might bounce a couple more off these guys as well, but thanks for sending in the questions. I got a peek at them earlier. They were really great. And I'll trust you to come up in whatever order you like. Green hat first, definitely, though.
Hello, my name is Capt, and my question is, how did you balance your education with sports or extracurricular in college?
I'll tell you, I didn't do it very well. I played 2 sports in college, Division I. I swam and I rowed, and truth be told, I let my academics suffer a little bit. And if I went back and did it again, my personal thought was, I'm in college. I already made it there. Like, who's going to look at my college GPA? It matters. And so I don't think I balanced it super well. I swam well. I rowed well. And so I don't know that I have the exact right answer for you. You need to be disciplined. You got to and stick with the right folks. Be disciplined about your day. Doesn't necessarily mean work harder, but work smart, whether that's, setting aside time for sleep or academics or your athletic endeavors.
Thank you.
Very nice, great question. Yeah, time management is usually learned the hard way.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and one of the questions I had was, what was the most important thing you got out of your experience or your barriers that you faced?
From your high school experience?
Or just overall, all throughout your life, your barriers that you face, the difficulties, what's the thing you learned?
I think that feeling like I was on the outside and when I was trying to please the whole world, I was very deceptive. I was in the closet, and I never wanted my baseball teammates to know anything about what I was managing. And then as I got older, when I realized that until I was my truest, most authentic self, A, I wasn't happy, and B, the friends that I had made, they became even closer to me. It wasn't that I was different, it was just that I was stopped blocking. Sorry about that. Stopped, trying to. Okay. Stop trying to please everybody and just try to please myself.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and my question was, if there's any advice that you would give to the kids right now, what would you give them? Kids were trying to achieve what you guys are, what advice would you give them right now, the kids in the room?
I like that question because, again, just to remind everybody, right, what these three people have accomplished is extraordinary. It's what most of us dream of trying to do. It's not necessarily something that's going to happen for everybody, but we should all be trying, right? I mean, that's the goal, is to try and be the absolute best. So what's the magic potion to getting to the top of the mountain?
I wouldn't say there's a magic potion. I would say just keep working. At times it seems like you're stuck where you're at, or you're not going to be able to achieve the goal that you're trying to achieve, but keep working, keep your head down, and keep going and just persevere through it.
People come to baseball looking for work, and one of the things that I see often is someone will say, I really like baseball, I want to work in baseball, and it's a common thing to sort of have this giant general idea of what you want your future to look like, but to be effective, you have to lead with your vision, like whatever that is. If you want to be an actor, an illustrator, a lawyer, a doctor, a fireman, that's what people need to know front and center. And your clarity in that vision, you become great at the one thing that is your driving force, and that's going to impress people when they, like when you're interviewing for a job or you're trying to get into a college. It's hard for people to get to know you in 5 minutes. So you got to be really, really firm with what is important to you, and then that'll translate better and it'll be more effective for you.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
To kind of echo what they both said, know your job and do your job. And right now your job is high school, and so it's getting the best grades that you can. You've got opportunities to take different electives, find something that you're passionate about, you're interested in. If you try something and it's not quite the right fit, this is a great time in life where you can pivot and try something else. Do the best you can. If you do the best you can, you'll be able to sleep well at night, and it will most likely open opportunities for you going forward.
Love that. Great question. Wonderful answers. Know your job, do your job. I like that one. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Alright, hi, I'm Sebastian Douglas, and my question is for Captain Amy, and I was wondering how your high school experience was going to an all-girls school.
Yeah, well, here's another fun factoid about me. I've never existed in life not in uniform. So in grade school I wore a uniform, in high school I wore a uniform, then I went to the Naval Academy, and then I've served my entire military career. Now, the green pajamas are a pretty good way to go, I'm not gonna lie. But I didn't want to admit it at the time because I wasn't real thrilled about where my mom and dad said I was going to high school. But what I think I got out of the experience was, I didn't have, my prom date wasn't necessarily next door. And it was a fairly small school. And so you weren't as afraid to ask a question in class. You weren't as afraid to maybe, look silly or look dumb. And so I think I came out of that school much more confident than if I would have had different opportunities or gone to a different school. And that really meant that when I got to the Naval Academy, I wasn't afraid to ask the questions, go get help, go out for a sports team or a club or an activity that I might not have had the confidence to do. And so I think looking back on it, and I didn't want to admit it at the time, it ended up really helping me establish some self-esteem and self-confidence that I'm not sure I would have had otherwise.
Thank you.
I want to jump on something Amy just said about question asking and curiosity and how much that can serve in sports, in life, and in a lot of things. And I'm sure all three of you can look back at some experience you had, whether it was with a coach or a teacher or a commanding officer at some point, and trying to understand something a little bit better, and the importance of having the confidence and the strength to go and ask those questions and try and get that information.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Santiago, and I had a question for Trent. How do you work under pressure or like clutch situations?
I would just say I try to breathe and treat them like normal situations. I don't try to do anything different for different situations. I try to be calm and think clearly through all situations. So when I don't treat my first at bat any different than I would my last at bat in the ninth. So I would just say trying to keep a calm, clear head throughout.
Did you have to learn how to do that, or is that just kind of your personality?
Well, I was blessed with a more calm demeanor, but it is also practiced. I mean, you have to definitely work on it. It's a lot easier said than done. It's very hard to bring that energy that you need into that first at bat, and then vice versa. It's very hard to calm yourself down in the ninth when the game is on the line.
Thank you.
Obviously, it works. By the way, you hit a big home run in the 8th inning last night to tie the game.
Hello, my name is Javon, and my question was, what was the lowest point of your life, and how did you overcome it?
That's a great one for all three of you. Take it in whatever you like. Lowest point, how you overcame it.
All right, well, I'll take the first knock at this. I had a couple tours ago. You know, we changed jobs every couple of years in the military, and I saw some of the questions that you guys wrote, and there were quite a few questions about motivation, a little bit about time balancing, and I ended up in a job where I was pretty tired, and I'd say I was burned out, and I wasn't happy with kind of everything that was kind of going on in life. And what kept me going, and I get it can be a little different, was I was still in charge of 400 sailors. And it wasn't 400 sailors' fault that I was tired and I was burned out. And they deserved everything I could give them each and every day that I came to work. And so I just woke up every day, put one foot in front of each other, kept working hard. You eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I just kind of kept going, and eventually I was able to kind of work my way through it. I will also tell you, I don't like the word mental health, but I use the word mental fitness a lot with our sailors. And a lot of folks, we have a ton of great counselors on board. And I also talked to someone, a couple of sessions, and that also helped me kind of work through some of the things that had kind of been lingering and kind of going on, and get kind of past the burnout. And then, because again, it really for me was about those 400 sailors that needed me to be the best that I could be every day.
Billy, you shared some of your toughest moments in life.
I think just going back to that moment, I came home after the night before opening day in '95, and my partner was very, very sick. Took him to the hospital, and he died early in the morning the next day. And when I looked up after a whole night of that, I realized I had to be at the ballpark at 1:00 that day for our next game, and I just went to the park. And I just completely tried to push that experience away because I didn't feel like that anybody would accept that part of my life. And that's how toxic the closet or isolation, if you're being bullied or harassed by somebody or in a relationship that's unhealthy, like these kinds of shining a light and trusting, one or two people that you love the most can be life-saving. And so that was a moment when you talk about mental health and wellness. We didn't talk about those things when I was a player. You were just expected to deal with it. If I could go back in time and sit with Johnny Ritchey or Jackie Robinson and ask them, how did you manage the world being so against you at all times? And baseball is a very, very hard game to play.
And one more thing, how do you get out of slumps? Because I see Major League Baseball players that go into slumps and they just randomly come back. I was gonna ask how do you come out of slumps?
I think it's the way you approach it, the way you look at a slump. I mean, the way I look at slumps is there's ebbs and flows of seasons as hitters, as in life. I mean, you're gonna be up and you're gonna be down. So what I try to focus on is before anything starts, before the season, I sit myself down and I tell myself, look, you're going to go through ups and downs. That's part of it. That's baseball. But the way I'm going to look at it is I know what I'm trying to accomplish every single day and what I'm trying to get out of every at bat, what I'm trying to bring to the field, to my team every day. So I'm going to focus on doing those things at all times and know that the ebbs and flows are going to happen, slumps are going to happen. And I'm just going to try to have a great attitude every day and help my teammates out and know that tides are going to turn.
One of the things for me getting to be around these guys, getting to talk to them, listen to them, and it's just so hard in baseball, right, is that the lessons that they learn and the approaches they take to stuff like that, I can apply them to my life. I can talk to my kids about them. And taking the big picture in mind, knowing there's going to be ups and downs, knowing there's going to be difficulties, but then to look up at the end of the year and know that they're doing stuff that most people in the history of this planet could never do. It's really a very special sport in that way, and that there are so many lessons that can be taken out whether you've ever swung a baseball bat or not.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to steer it back to the topic at hand for a moment. We'll get back to some more fun questions as well. We talk about the difficulties of it all. Amy, what's the toughest part of what you do, being responsible for all those people and all those machines, and how do you sort of manage those difficulties?
A lot of my sailors are only about 6 months older than some of you that are graduating here coming up in the next year. And so we've got, the average age right now on the ship of 3,000 people, 5,000 when we go on deployment, is right now it's about 21.8 years old, and that's gotten a lot older in the last year or two. And so, it's the things that are tough and the things that keep me up at night are just trying to make sure that we're all on the same sheet of music, that we're all, when we launch 100 jets a day off the aircraft carrier, and we got to land 100 jets a day off the aircraft carrier. And in between, they got to go fly missions against a wide range of enemies. When we were out deployed. Last year in January of 2022, we left on January 3rd. We didn't come home until August 11th. So you're spending, 7.5 months away from home, away from loved ones, not the same internet connectivity that you have now, and just trying to keep a fairly young team moving towards that goal and that mission is a challenge each and every day. And, you got to talk about the mission, talk about how important their piece of the puzzle is, and then they've got to in the slumps, we get slumps too, whether equipment breaks or we're having a hard time getting jets launched, and you go back to the basics, you go back to the fundamentals, you go back to the things that help get you to where you are today, and then you rely on that and it'll help you get out of it too.
Sorry about that. Billy, you talked a couple of times about how lonely things were for you in the clubhouse and during your baseball career. As you sort of look back now, the importance of communication, the importance of being able to have people, whether it's at work in your life or both, that you're sort of able to have all those conversations with.
So what the great part about my job now, which I, like Amy said, I never had any idea that I would be in this chair, we're pushing for a more inclusive and equitable baseball because we impact so many different people. So I really draw on my own lived experience, and I'm very attracted to all people with different ones. And that's, my team is built of 6 people, and we all come from different walks of life and different ages, and that collective experience, I feel like if I would have been more open to that or been influenced to participate in that, not only would have made me a better baseball player, I also wish I had a little bit of Trent's chill vibe, because I was a very hyper player and I used to get very down on myself if I, and that's what a big leaguer sounds like, everybody, right there, that, because it is a grind. But, trying to, the world is a constantly evolving process and place, and every conversation is new. The world that you guys are moving into, and to go to college, the turbulence that we face in with social media and all these different kinds of obstacles that get in your way, the more that you are sharing like what that is like, I think that the easier it is to manage it, as opposed to trying to take it all on yourself. And that's really, for me, what, at least from my little part of this conversation, when we talk about driving equity and inclusion and being more diverse, it's, you have to have more people in those conversations that can help you learn from each other.
Very nice. All right, let's have some more fun. What do you got?
Hi, good morning, good evening, you guys. I understand it takes commitment to start whatever you want to start, but what did you guys do to stay consistent and want to keep going every single day?
Great question. Where does your motivation come from to do what you do?
I think you got to reinvent your goal every day. Like, where if you've achieved something, to sit back and say, well, look what I've done. The world will catch up or pass you by. You can't, Trent's got to get up and go focus on today. He can't be telling everybody I hit a home run last night, because the game is now, the work is now, the threat is now. And so to me, keeping your focus on what's important to you, because that job, that description is going to change all the time. So keeping up with it, and you'll know if you're not satisfied with, being the best you can be at that, whatever that is, I think that it'll serve you very well.
Even though driving an aircraft carrier wasn't ever my original goal, I always did have goals. I always had something when I got up in the morning that I looked forward to accomplishing that day. And so, you don't graduate high school in a day, a week, a month, or a year. It takes 4 years. And if the first day you started as a freshman, all you thought about was graduation day, man, that would feel like an impossible journey. You get through one class at a time, one semester at a time, one test at a time, whatever it may be. But you always had that goal out there of graduating and then going on to do whatever you choose to do. And so I think you just get up each and every day and you remember that test is coming. And if you don't pay attention in class today, studying for that test in a couple weeks is going to be a heck of a lot harder. So if I dial it in today, that means I can probably play video games in a couple weeks because I won't need to study for that test for 8 hours. I can knock out my studying in 4 hours. So let's pay attention today, and it'll make everything in the future that much better.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I was asking Trent about motivation, and in sports, right, there's stats that you're trying to chase, there's wins, or games you're trying to win, but motivation, I'm sure, comes in other forms.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to what Amy said. If you're always looking at stats or trying to live up to that, at the end of the day, they're just, for me, stats are just numbers. Motivation, I feel like, has to come from something deeper, something more meaningful within yourself. And for me, I just kind of I try to look back at the situation I'm in now, talking about 20,000 big leaguers ever, and I'm getting to live out my dream of doing that. I kind of like to just look back and kind of pinch myself and say, when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I dreamed of being a big league baseball player, and now I'm getting to live it out every day. So I just try to go into each day and get the most from it and do that little guy that was dreaming about this justice.
Awesome. Great question, man. Thank you so much. All right, let's keep the line moving in our now very elongated Q&A session.
It means a lot for you guys to be out here. Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, man.
Hi, my name is Christian. I have a question for all three of you.
Asking for a friend, have you ever felt that you weren't represented enough through the media, although you guys have broken barriers?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat it again? I'm sorry.
Have you ever felt that you weren't represented enough in the media, although you have broken many barriers in your career?
That's a great question, because it's really the core of why conversations like this are so important, because when you're underrepresented, you're not really always given an equitable or fair opportunity. So, the world's not perfect. Baseball's not perfect. Baseball's focused on it. I think for those who, we've made tremendous initiatives to get more women in executive positions. We have women coaches. We have 2 women managers in the minor leagues right now. If we're here to talk about Johnny Ritchey's experience or Jackie Robinson, right now there's a tremendous competition with young African-American kids of color with other sports, and baseball is trying to reinvent itself to make it more appealing, because one of the things that is very unique about baseball, regardless of how much you want equitable representation, if you don't start playing catch or playing baseball when you're 5 or 6 years old, it's not going to happen, because it's just that hard of a sport. And that is a crushing reality that we're all faced with. So it's our responsibility to bring it to younger kids, make it easier and more accessible. Padres have great initiatives. They've been one of the leading organizations in baseball, reaching out and to try to bring the history and the story behind baseball. Storytelling is the best way to create a connection. And so that's how we're trying to face that goal. I would say equitable representation is first and foremost for growing the sport.
and see if we can do this. You guys have fairly serious jobs, certainly Amy, very important jobs, very demanding jobs. What are some of the things you do in your leisure time to sort of allow yourself to relax so that when you are back in the grind and back into doing your jobs that you feel like you can be focused and ready to go? Trent, what are some of the things you do away from the field?
I like to play golf. So I get to compete, and it's at a lot lower intensity than playing baseball. So I like to do a lot of different things that usually involve competing with, whether it's ping pong or video games at times, stuff like that.
I try to make sure I work out every day, which some days can be tough, but that I always feel better on the days that I work out. I watch Ted Lasso. And the new season's out, so I'm watching Ted Lasso. Yeah, all right.
Working in New York City, working out as often as possible for sure, but my favorite thing to do is play tennis. I'm a big tennis guy now.
These athletes, they're always competing. It's amazing, huh?
Hi, this is a question for Amy. How, in your field specifically, how do you handle mansplaining or sexism in your field professionally?
Great question. I'm going to have a very unsatisfying answer for you. I've been really fortunate in my career. It kind of goes back to something Trent said in the beginning, who you surround yourself with. And I've been fortunate that the organizations I've been a part of, I honestly, I've spent 34 years now between going through the Naval Academy and my time active duty. I can remember one person that I knew didn't appreciate the fact that I was a woman and that I was flying helicopters. And I was able to avoid them. And the nice thing about the military is, when you're wearing wings of gold, everybody knows how you get them. We all go through the exact same flights. We all get paid exactly the same. And so there is a little bit of a leveling. And so when you show up with wings, when you graduate from nuclear power training, you don't have to do a lot of explaining because what you've accomplished is explanation enough. And so I usually, but not everyone's experience has been the same. You take the high road. So whether I will address the comment in a professional manner, and then you just go about getting the job done. Because frankly, their comment, it's not going to affect me getting my job done typically. So take the high road.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. All right. I know we got two more, you guys. I apologize. We are going to cut the Q&A off here. I know we're a little bit crazy with the schedule and everything going on. But first, let's give a huge thank you to Trent, Captain Amy, Billy, for coming out here. If you guys can hang out for a second, we're going to bring up everybody who came up earlier as well. Eric and Tom, the Ritchey family, please absolutely come and join us on the stage. We'll do a big group photo. Maybe all the kids can get down in front of the stage here. We'll get everybody up together and have some fun. So Kazim also, if he's still here. Yeah, he is. So Kazim, Tom, Eric, the Ritchey family. Let's give it up for the Ritchey family as well back here at San Diego High. How cool.